the meeting. We just need to make sure the meeting is recorded.
Okay, that's fine. I just I wanted to make sure that we
Yeah.
are
Thank
legally
you.
following all the procedures.
Good point. Good point.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Um, I think today we are probably going to give a few things about the code office update, as well as introduction of one of my new managers with the whole group. And of course, the majority part of the conversation is going to be done by our major of our contract police department, Mr. Coletti. He's also here in the call. Um, First update on code office is that we had provided that information as a information item in the last meeting, and probably all the council member already have the contents of it. The way the organizational structure at this time within my department is that after the hiring of Mr. David Spalding, who is also on the Zoom call, um, he is handling office of permits and licenses along with code enforcement unit that does the field activity that pertain to code enforcement and noise control and loud parties and other code enforcement matters. And they can include anything in built structure or any code enforcement support that public works needs in case of trees or any other item that deals with the built environment. Having said that, the organization on the side of parking enforcement has also been added some responsibility under that manager, who's Mr. Jim Miller. And he also has an oversight of parking enforcement as well as animal control division. So that's, and they are all clear in the, our organization chart, and that was provided as information within our last meeting. So having said that, I would like to give Mr. Spalding a chance to introduce himself and share a few things that he's working in his area at the present. Mr. Spalding?
Thank you, Jitendra. Hi, nice to meet everybody tonight. I think this is my first official meeting of everybody. But quick background on me. I've been with the city about 5 years. Did mostly the last 3.5, 4 years has been night shift, day into night, and weekend with the noise. So, and then I got promoted to this position here. So I'll go into the noise real quick. So I just wanted to go over the decibels. So, and I think probably if we already know what the decibels are in the AM and PM, but during the daytime hours from 7 a.m. till 8 p.m. are 65 decibels, and it drops down after 8 at night till the next morning will be 55 decibels. So that's where we are as far as with the decibels, what they are in the AM and PM hours, 24/7. My next thing I have right now is what I'm working on now is the bars on Baltimore Avenue. It seems their speakers are really loud at nighttime, and they're like battling each other, and I'm starting to get complaints on that. So we're going to have a meeting with all the bars, and either they're going to have to lower them to the proper decibels, or we're even looking to maybe they'll have to remove the outside speakers to come within noise compliance. But so that's one thing I'm working on now. But the other thing I wanted to touch on was the hotline. If you have a noise complaint, call the hotline. Call the non-emergency, the city's hotline. And even if code is not able to respond, the police will. There'll be somebody here to respond to answer the call. I'm seeing a lot of what happens at nighttime is people go to the GoGov and put in a GoGov complaint. If you put it into GoGov, just be mindful, you're probably not going to get a response until the next business day. So calling the hotline would be the best option here. If you have something, a party or loud music or anything going on, call the hotline and it'll be answered immediately. But if you put it into GoGov, like I said, the next business day is going to be, that's probably when you're going to get the call answered. And we need to take care of that, handle the problem immediately as far as I'm concerned, especially if a noise call. And I think that's pretty much it. I'm still working on things. I just got the position. I've been in it about a month. I'm still working on a lot of stuff. So hopefully work through this and make the city compliant.
Yeah, Marianne, please go ahead.
I do have a noise question. In Montgomery County, they have a pilot project now for the noisy cars. And they have actually put 3 different locations with noise cameras. And this project started, I believe, in June. By December, they need to turn in some kind of report showing the efficacy of it. And it will run until June of 26, I think. It's under the state noise ordinance, basically, that allowed local jurisdictions to do this with their noise cameras. And actually, they set it at 80 decibels, which is a bit louder than ours.
Yeah.
They do tell you, where the cameras are to be positioned, and that the cameras are only to be used for the traffic purpose. The police can't use it for any other noise ordinance type complaints. Is the city looking into that or interested in that?
Okay.
Definitely look into that. Oh, sorry, Jitendra, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I may have a little bit more fresh information in that regard, David, what we have shared with you. I think Mr. Ritzel had inquired about it maybe in the last 1 or 2 days, and I have been looking into it. I had a conversation with Mr. Gardner, who takes care of our legislative affairs in our administration, and he provides the update. In my conversation with him earlier in the day, he indicated that, there is some language being written in Prince George's County, and for the same, kind of ordinance that has been passed or that authority comes from the state. And at this point of time, Prince George's County has also asked for allowing 3 locations. And it's still like he's going to seek more information from our lobbyist and give us a more firmer answer. But at this point of time, he indicated to me the way the language is proposed at the county level, we may not have any location within the city of College Park, but it is definitely a latest technology and we should try to utilize. But how much practical it is for us to make a promise to any resident or any businesses that ask for me from my position as a public services director, I always like to be transparent and open in terms of what's going on. But once we have the complete information from Mr. Gardner, after he gets opportunity to talk to the lobbyist and his contacts at the PG County, we'll provide more details and tell you the reality check, what's happening. And I think the basically what noise camera does is it captures peaks of the decibel, and that is to deal with the vehicle noises, I think, not any other kind of noise. So there is a limitation in scoping where you can allow it, like loud muffler and things like that. Maybe Major Kaladi can shed some more light on it if he has further information, but there is a limited scope in dealing with the noise, and that noise is just emanating from loud exhaust or that kind of scenarios from the vehicle. That is what my understanding is.
Yes.
I heard someone saying something.
Yeah, I was agreeing that is the Montgomery County ordinance. It says that it cannot be used for any other purposes for noise complaints. It is to be for vehicle, mainly the vehicle exhaust, the mufflers that have been adapted to deliberately make noise. And that was the purpose of putting the cameras out, that they too have the problem.
Yeah, and I did see some news article from WUSA 9 back in first week of August, I believe, and that also indicated that they had 3 locations in Montgomery County. And that is what I have just heard from media. And I know Mayor probably had sent in an email to inquire about or look into those things. But it's rather at this time, it's premature for us to give any information out unless we exactly know what we can do, what is allowed under the law, and what is the purpose and scope of it.
Justin, can I
Please go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah, thank you. I just want to add the City of College Park, Mary Ann, City of College Park, City Council, we have been advocating for this legislation for a while. It's been 2 years now. We have been advocating. In the last year's legislative session, the bill actually came forward, but it did not pass because of the opposition from other counties. But this time it passed because the scope of the legislation has been limited to only Prince George's and Montgomery County. So this is a state law because no other jurisdiction like county or the city or town, they cannot have this kind of noise cameras because there hasn't been any enabling legislation from the state. So that is the reason we could not, or any other cities or county, they could not do it. Other cities in the country, there are at least three cities in the country that have been doing it. New York has it, Knoxville has it, I believe in California somewhere, and they also have it. It is, there have been some data, so you know, still it is pretty early stage of how efficient, how accurate the this enforcement could be. But this time it will be only implemented or possibly implemented only in Montgomery and Prince George's County, only 3 locations, I believe, from each county. That is the scope of this legislation. It is very, very limited, kind of pilot, you can say. And based on the data collected, then the next step will be taken in the future.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I do want to go back to David Spalding's point about, I strongly encourage all the city council members to please have a conversation with the residents or in any meetings that they meet with them to encourage them to call the hotline so that, because once that time is gone, evidence is not collected, it's very hard for us to even, it becomes a very weak code enforcement case. And we, like, once the time has passed, we try to address that next day is difficult. And the second thing, on a positive note, I think I had asked, like David Spalding, to gather some data about how the community's behavior has been about loud party or, like kids having parties, that kind of scenario for, noise related complaints. It has really gone down. The last one that I remember was a few months back where there was a, like location where there were 5 kids and all of them were charged. And we probably had other stronger tool to send it to Code of Conduct office with University of Maryland. And that particular thing is very helpful for us to bring into compliance and change the behavior of kids as far as that particular issue is concerned. So that is really positive development, that those parties have been reduced to quite an extent. At least I feel a bit more relieved, because I think for last few months, I just don't hear, like I monitor, all these evening reports that come from the Friday evening and Saturday evening, code enforcement officers, and I hardly see any. David, do you want to say anything in that regard?
Yeah, we definitely, the Office of Student Conduct's notified, and if they're over, they automatically get a fine. So I think between the fine and the Office of Student Conduct, the Office of Student Conduct really picked up. They're on them, because they emailed me. They wanted to let a couple weeks ago, and I gave them addresses of where parties were going on, and the Office of Student Conduct contacted the tenants. So.
Okay, thank you, David. I would at this time request Major Kaladi to go over his data sheets and what's going on public safety world here in City of College Park.
Well, thank you. And while Sharon gets ready to put up the first slide, I just want to let everybody know that about an hour ago, we were working a citizen armed robbery in the 5000 block of Muskogee Road in Hollywood. I don't know if anybody saw the helicopter We asked for assistance from the aviation crew to see if we can try to track the 3 armed suspects that robbed the gentleman that was 50 years old over in Hollywood. So that's an active case right now. And just a side note, I know everybody's talking about the noise meters on the roadways. Just remember, just like a speed camera or a red light camera, they're only as good as the tags on the vehicle. A lot of people have bad tags on their vehicles. The tags are stolen. They don't belong to that individual, and those citations mean nothing. So just remember, a lot of people do it. They actually are printing their own tags up now. So these cameras that we have for enforcement, those violations mean nothing to the system. I just want to throw that little tidbit out there. So anyway, Sharon, can you hit the first slide, please? Second slide. All right, just an overview of all the crimes over the third quarter. So over the last 3 months that have occurred in College Park, and we'll talk about each one separately. So next slide. We've had 3 robberies in the city over the last 3 months, and those are the location of the robberies. Next slide, please. Those are just the locations of just assaults. They could be domestic related, but just the locations. An overview. Next slide. Commercial burglaries. We have seen an uptick, not just in the city, but in the county itself. We're having an uptick in nighttime burglaries of commercial establishments. So this is something that we're working on, and we've had made a few arrests, but unfortunately there's a few people doing it. Next slide. Just a location of the theft from autos and some other thefts throughout the city. So just so if you're aware, the second quarter, we had 3 robberies, just like we had 3 robberies in the third quarter. When you talk about burglaries, we've had a decrease from 11 to 6 for the third quarter. And theft from autos, we actually saw an increase. We went from, we had 20 in the second quarter to 23 in the third quarter. And then also, next slide, please. And in stolen autos, we saw an increase in the third quarter. We went from 23 to 27. Next slide. This is just a heat mapping indicating the noise complaints that we have received. And usually they're almost identical from quarter to quarter. Next slide, please. Just quality of life issues throughout the city. And usually you always see that they're always on the main corridors a lot of times, Old Town, but usually right down Baltimore Avenue. Next slide, please. These are the our field interviews and traffic stops, just providing some of the locations throughout the city. And what you want to try to see, what I try to see is, I want to make sure they kind of mirror up to where we're having some of the crimes. And basically, if you put slide over top of slide, we're pretty much in the right locations. Or the officers are, I'm sorry. Next slide. Just a monthly comparison talking about violent and nonviolent crimes. Next slide. And I'll just let everybody take a look at it. It just shows you the breakdown so far for this year. And while everybody's looking at that, I'll just talk, even though it just has, it's only partly about the city of College Park. but it's about Division One, which the city is within. So far this year, we're up 1% in violent crime. So we're up 9 separate incidents when it comes to violent crime, which is a good number. Our property crime, we're down 11%, which means we're down 377 incidents. So that's also a great number. But I just want to caution everybody, last November and December in Division One, we saw an increase. Well, we had 130 incidents of citizens or armed robberies. So in 2 months, we had 130 armed robberies last year. And we've actually have a special operational plan going on currently so that we don't repeat last year. And Sharon, I think that's the last slide. It's just some of the definitions. And I think that's probably it. So I just want to let everybody know, a couple of weeks ago, we have an incident in Old Town relating to a peeping Tom. The suspect, who we know, we have arrested and charged him in the past over the last several years. We were able to identify him on this one incident. Today we executed a court order search warrant at his house in Anne Arundel County, and also a separate search warrant on his vehicle. And we were able to obtain additional evidence. We seized a lot of electronic devices. So this individual is in custody, and he was placed under arrest at his probation officer office today. This individual has done time in other jurisdictions for the same thing. So we're hoping that the state's attorney's office will see the seriousness of this case and how he repeats himself, and that hopefully he can get some time served in Prince George's County. I will open it up for any other discussions relating to crime. And
Yeah,
Sharon, I'll let you call or
okay, Major, I think I want to also, highlight one item. I had seen in many of your weekly reports that there is a heightened approach from the contract police officers to deal with e-scooters or, like motorbikes or anything that is charged with the electric or battery or those kind of scenarios. I have seen you guys giving a lot of warnings and a lot of citations. And I think that's something that a lot of quarters of our community have been expecting that. And I really want to express my gratitude as a public services director to your team that that's a very positive thing. You can elaborate more in details if you have further objective, data to share with all the participants here.
Yeah, I'm not keeping separate data just on the scooters, but I will say this. We have asked the officers to conduct the enforcement on these scooters because Maryland law says they have to be registered. The occupants have to have a license, and they have to have insurance, and they have to have a helmet. So the average stop, each violator usually ends up getting 7 citations. And a lot of these, I just want to make sure that we're just not running out and trying to cite everybody out there. A lot of these individuals are running through red lights, stop signs, riding on the sidewalks, going in between traffic lanes. So those are the ones that are getting a lot of these citations. And I'm sure everybody sees it. I get complaints every week about it. And so that's why we've had a big push on the enforcement. So thanks a lot, because that is a good point.
Yeah, go ahead, Carol.
Hang on one second. I believe, Councilmember Whitney, you had your hand raised earlier. Was your concern addressed before we move forward?
I didn't think I had my hand raised, but it's like you're psychic. I was going to raise my hand, but others raised their hand first. So I can allow others to speak, and then I'll ask my question if they don't ask it.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Magnus?
Okay, I just wanted to be sure I could go. in the information you presented, I know that when I've seen the weekly emails the city sends out, they have a category of recovering stolen vehicles, which doesn't mean it's a stolen vehicle from this area. And I was wondering where does that fall into? And the reason I ask is just recently, I noticed that there was one stolen vehicle recovered on my street.
I'm not sure about what your question is, but
Well, my question is, where does that incident fall? Because I didn't see anything. You know, they always say theft of auto, which could mean that the vehicle's no longer around. But this was actually listed in the weekly email the city comes out with as being a recovery of a stolen vehicle. And I was curious, where does that fall?
so we don't keep stats on recover stolen vehicles. But I think the incident you're talking about, it was not a stolen vehicle. It was a carjacked vehicle, which was carjacked in the District of Columbia. We recovered that vehicle. DC Metropolitan Police officers, investigators came out and they processed that vehicle and impounded that vehicle. So that's what I think you're referring to. And the reason that was on the report, because that vehicle was seen at different locations within the city. So that's why we added that into the report.
Because it was specifically listed for my street. That's why I was curious. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Mackey.
Yes, Major Coletti, I was wondering, does the Prince George's County Police Force, Police Department have clubs and wheel locks for people that own Kias and Hyundais that are like being targeted on TikTok and various social medias to be stolen? Do we still have any of that we can direct residents who own like Kias and Hyundais to get those? I know that they had them at one time, but I don't know if we still do.
So we only have the club. We don't have wheel locks. We never had wheel locks, but we do have the club. I do have a small supply of clubs available. We have done two community outreach at the IKEA parking lot in College Park, and we were able to give out a good number of the clubs. But if you have one or two persons that you would like to have a club, they live in the city or the county, and they have a Hyundai, I can probably get them a club.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll email you about that.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Whitney.
Thank you. I have a question about, are officers able to ticket vehicles that are stopped in bike lanes? Is that a law that officers can ticket for?
I think it all depends on where the roadway is, and if well, if they're actually in the travel portion of the roadway, then they're hindering or interfering with traffic. So yes, we could probably cite them for that. And I think the State Highway Administration probably is looking at certain stretches of Baltimore Avenue to post no parking signs. And I'm sure that's what you're referring to, is the bike lanes on Baltimore Avenue. So it all depends on how the vehicles are parked. I don't know. I would have to look at the articles of transportation to see if there is a citation or a violation for parking in a bike lane. But I would probably assume that if they're parking the bike lane, that means they're parked in the roadway, at which time that we could probably cite them for that. But let's and I know a lot of people are concerned about that, but let's kind of be realistic about it. A lot of these people that do it, they're commercial vehicles, they're making deliveries, and we all know they shouldn't be doing it. It's always been an issue on Baltimore Avenue in the Old Town area. And we've worked with a lot of these delivery companies, asking them to use the side streets. So, I don't want to hit people real hard, in the beginning. I think education is the key. The city has 2 VMS boards. I think the city should put them out on Baltimore Avenue with a message asking people not to stop in the bike lanes. So let's work on education first before we start trying to do a lot of this enforcement. And I hope that that's reasonable what I'm saying.
Thank you. Thank you for that answer.
I think I'm done with all the agenda items that I had for this meeting. If anybody, go ahead, Carol.
I had a question and it relates to the noise issue that were presented at the very beginning. I know that the effort was mentioned that they were going to work on the commercial properties and getting the, their loudspeakers and the issues. Is there any education that's being thought of or even possible for educating new people moving into the communities, and I'll say North College Park, which is where I live, to let them know that there are some of these regulations to keep the noise down. I just recently, a few weeks ago, had an incident where not the people directly across the street from me, but one house up, I don't know what they were playing, but they had a loud bang, bang, bang drums. Their house was closed, windows were closed. My house was closed, windows was closed, and I could hear that noise in my house. I went over to them because I knew that they had it's a rental. They were renting the house. I went over to them. I'm not strong enough, but the amount of pounding I had to do on their front door to get somebody to come through, if I were strong, I would have actually damaged their door because that's how loud it was. They couldn't even hear that there was somebody at their door. And I was wondering, is the city looking at doing more to educate residents outside of the city limits, which, the downtown areas, specifically the area where the students are, and moving it out to the rest of the place? I don't know. I don't know what can be done, because it didn't seem like these people were even aware of that situation. And they have been very nice about it. They cut down the noise. They apologized. I haven't had any problem.
Yeah, I think, Carol, to respond to your question, education, proactive approach always help and is the right thing and should be the first avenue to do it. In construction aspect of things, I'm pretty sure wherever we are having new construction being done in the city, especially in downtown area, or maybe where there is a newer technology or new products being used, all these walls, they do have more acoustic features in them compared to what the traditional built-up was, whether it's a residential structure, mixed-use structure, or a commercial structure. But I can tell you, like if somebody has a nightclub in the old downtown, there has not been any renovation or changes, so those features are not incorporated. And the only thing we can do is through education and try to bring them into the limit. I know our knock and talks, group and effort with code office always have that as one of the items to be discussed with the new kids and new tenants, so forth and so on. But to give you more technical, things, it's just going to be dealt with case by case basis.
I guess my concern is I hear a lot about being able to identify where students are renting houses from downtown. I hear a lot about the apartment complexes or the multi-unit facilities, but I don't hear much about handling things in the actual residential places where the buildings have existed. These buildings in my area were built in the 50s. So I'm sure they don't have any of that noise thing, but it's a house. It's for families.
Yeah.
It's not for commercial.
Okay, no, I understand. When I use the word commercial in my disposition of understanding of your question, when I use the word commercial, that means commercial construction, which is a commercial building, apartment building, or a multi-family with restaurants and garage. There are 3-4 different uses in a building. That's a mixed-use building. But as far as your instance where you explained just with the group what you encountered, and you were able to reach out to these people, and you were lucky enough that when you were knocking, they heard you, and then there was a conversation, and they abide by your suggestion. And I think that's the wonderful thing that can happen in a neighborhood scenario. But as far as like in terms of anywhere else, maybe in some, more single family residential area or a typical residential neighborhood, it just left to a lot of time proactively, we share this information, noise related information. The other day, somebody from the noise control board was saying, oh, there's nothing that you guys have done. So we said that like this College for Resident guide that I have right here, I was hearing that person, I opened it and I went to page 17 and all the details are there. And it was like 1 or 2 members of my noise control board saying, oh, we haven't done enough. So we are doing the reach out and we are asking. But in that particular case, it was great. But if you would have felt that they are not responding, if you would have called us, we would have immediately gone to address that matter.
Okay. Are you dealing with the realtors to make sure that they give them the new people moving in, whether they be new owners or new renting of the home, to get that information? I know of one realtor who has said, every time I sell a house or deal with rental, I make sure they have that copy. But what about the rest of the real estate professionals? Are they aware? Are they aware of this situation so that they can try and make sure that the people are getting that?
Yeah, so Carol, I think the one group that I have dealt here is the Prince George's County Property Owners Association, and we regularly meet with them. I think probably every quarter we at least meet once with some of the office bearer of that organization. And, I typically share with them, if you guys are carrying real estate realtor or broker's license, you have certain obligation. Do you guys do that? And they do say that. How much of that is true? I am no one to judge them.
Right.
But we can only proactively ask of them, tell them what is done about that. David, you want to say maybe there are some interaction that I'm not aware of? But those are the people, because they have to follow their state license for realtor, and they have some obligation to maintain their license.
Yeah, we can reach out further. I'm not sure what part of the city you live in, Miss Carol, but we can maybe do knock and talk up your area as well. But also, so if you're hearing a lot of the problems I'm having now is the bass, they turn the bass up and you hear that boom, boom, boom.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
The noise, so if you have that problem in your house, the noise meters we have, I can switch that to pick that bass up and give them a ticket or an NOV, start off with NOV from the bass that you're hearing in your house. I just have to be allowed in your house to be able to pick the bass up and could go that way. Cause that's been a lot of the problem. It's not that it's the bass. I've been getting a lot of calls on that.
Yeah, that's what I heard. The only
the bass.
The only question is maybe you said you meet on a fairly regular basis with realtor, those people, just making sure that they are, emphasize it to them that they need to get that information out.
Sure.
Because some of these, because I'm sure some of these people, they're just handed all this stuff and they don't know,
Right, they don't look at it, especially if they're
overwhelmed. They're overwhelmed.
Yeah, exactly.
Put it that way.
Right, totally understand. But we'll reach out to them. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Quite well.
All right, folks, if anybody had any burning question in their gut, please, this is the time to ask.
Hey, I just want to say that Susan brought up a good point about the vehicles blocking the bike lanes and the roadway itself. But and one thing that we've seen is the rideshare drivers. You think about everybody that uses them. They walk out to the sidewalk. They use their app, and the rideshare drivers come right down Baltimore Avenue, and they all stop on Baltimore Avenue. And that's something that maybe the city could write a letter to all the different rideshare companies, asking them not to do that. And they have, and I spoke to Susan just by text a couple minutes ago. She saw one use the driveway, and we have stopped a couple people and asked the drivers to use the driveways, because a lot of people don't realize that if 3 people do it, 3 rideshare drivers do it, it does back up traffic on Baltimore Avenue during rush hour. And it does create a hazard for the bikes, but it's a hazard for everybody. So maybe that might be one of our public campaigns of just trying to get their rideshare drivers to understand that this is a problem along that Baltimore Avenue corridor, and maybe that's something we could do, or the city could do. Just a thought.
Go
You know,
ahead, Carol.
I guess I have the question, and it's just a general. Has the city police, whoever it is, noticed any improvement on Rhode Island Avenue since the speed limit was dropped to 30 miles an hour? Has there been any benefit, anything that they can see or hear?
Are you asking the police?
Whoever might see that, I don't know. And that's the city, the police. You can judge, give your view as to what you're seeing.
Listen, if you go down Rhode Island Avenue, you're a resident of the city, you have to see vehicles traveling at a lower rate, which is good for all the pedestrians that cross Rhode Island Avenue, whether it's at Duval Field or closer to Hollywood Shopping Center, the school children that cross that intersection of Rhode Island and Edgewood. So yes, I think it's made a big difference, and it's
Okay.
all in the name of public safety. So
Okay.
I think it's a good thing.
Okay.
All right, Mayor, if there's no other further question, I would like to bring this meeting to an end here today. You all have a great evening and good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.